Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookish Rum and I am back with another video. As you can see, I'm here to make another video in my series of Being a Librarian 101. I haven't done one of these videos in a couple of months, just getting back into the swing of filming, and I am coming up with a list of topics as I have gone through and seen some comments about what people would like to see. So I have a couple ideas now of like kind of the direction of the videos that I want to do. And this one, as you can see by the title, is just a typical day as a librarian. So this is pretty much typical of my day. This is not necessarily what every librarian's day is like. This is just what my experience has been like, and I am have been working in the library for over 3.5 years now. So this is what I have experienced and what I have done. I know some people have asked about like my hours and stuff like that. I can't give you my work schedule, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, like I will give you my specific work schedule, but I will tell you a little bit about the ins and outs of what I do in my job. So to answer the first question about like what my hours are like, we work close to an average of 40 hours a week, which is kind of like a typical work week for anybody that has a job. 40 hours a week puts everybody at about 8 hours a day if you work Monday through Friday. Now, keep in consideration that some libraries are open on the weekends. We are open Monday through Saturday. So I sometimes work Monday through Friday, sometimes I work Monday through Thursday and work on a Saturday. So it all depends on how my schedule fluctuates and it changes. But for the most part, like I said, I do work close to 40 hours a week. I do have quite a few different responsibilities, like opening the building. In the morning, we do things like pull holds. If you guys have ever requested stuff at your library, I get asked this question for real. People ask like, well, okay, so if I request something in my library, like how does it get to me? So basically, depending upon the type of system that you have, that your library has, what we do is that when you go on the library's website and you put something on hold, what it does is it searches the entire system and figures out where that book is at what specific locations, if your system has multiple locations, and then it'll prompt that specific location to pull that book off of a holds list. So we use the same software. We log in and we pull the holds list, and what we do is we pull the books that are being requested by other people, and when those books are checked in, what ends up happening is it will pull a hold for that person, and we know what location to send it to. It seems like a lot of library systems, including mine, have a department that picks up the books and transports them to their locations, and when they get scanned in, it pulls up your name and then you get sent a notification. So it's not really a complex system, I think, because I'm on the inside of it, but it may sound like a complex system for those who may not A, have as much experience doing it, or B, have never seen it from the internal side, especially when you get used to working with the programs and the systems that we use. It becomes easier to understand. But like I said, if you don't have that internal perspective, it's not that easy to get. Outside of pulling holds, we also do things like process what we call delivery, and that is tied into the hold. So whenever you're requesting stuff, it does come into whatever your home location is, and that stuff is scanned into the system and it pulls names to let us know who that book is on hold for, and that's how you get that notification, and it tells you to come and pick it up. I do participate in check-in and check-out, so there are different ways that I do check-in and check-out. So there are ways that people can drop things off when we're not open, which is typically, customary of every library. You have like a drop box where you can drop your materials off, and then what we do is we collect those materials when we open up, and we check it depending upon how busy we are, and it depends on what location you're at. Check it multiple times a day. And when you check it multiple times a day, we just check those materials in, and then either are sent to another location or they stay at our location, or sometimes people bring their stuff to the front desk and we check the stuff in. And like I said, it either stays with us or it goes to another location, either because it is assigned to that location or it fulfills a hold at that location, which I think is pretty daggone unique and interesting. It's something that you get used to. It becomes a very automated, like check and check out becomes such a very automated very automated process sometimes, which is awful, but sometimes you just get into the workflow of things and you just do that stuff. I do shelve. I haven't shelved as much lately because pregnant and bending over, it's just not that fun. But shelving has been a very interesting part of my role working in the library. I shelved a lot more when I started because I was in a different position. Now I'm in a position where my back end work is a lot more intensive than my front end work, meaning like front of the house type stuff. Back of the house for me, it takes up a lot of my time. It doesn't take up all of my time because I love spending time out in the front and on the floor, but a lot of times I do have back end stuff that I really do have to take care of. So I do shelve. Shelving is very natural to me, and it's very awkward for individuals who have never shelved. Shelving will make you realize how well you do or do not know your alphabet. When I first started shelving, I literally had to shelve books and sing the alphabet in my head as I shelved. Now it's almost like I can look at the spine of a book and I know exactly how it fits into the whole scheme of any shelf. It doesn't matter what location I'm at because I work in a system where there's multiple locations. It doesn't matter. I kind of just see it, and it's a very weird thing. But your brain becomes so used to that process of seeing the alphabet and knowing exactly where it's supposed to fit in. But it does take some time to train your brain to do that. Shelving is also unique because we work in a different system than what some libraries do. And you'll find this based also in the type of library. So I work in a library system where we no longer use the Dewey Decimal System. So you'll see books that are like 3.314.21, and that actually tells you what the category of that book is. But we moved away from that. We're what's called accessed, meaning that we actually use words as opposed to numbers, because a lot with, I think my library, and this happened before I was actually onboarded, that the trend in library systems now is it seems as though people are not as familiar with the Dewey Decimal System as they were, say, 20-30 years ago. So now they're accessing everything, so it's easier for patrons to find items. So now you'll see like things separated into fiction, young adult or teen fiction, children's comic books or graphic novels, picture books, and children's chapter books, DVDs, Blu-rays, combo packs. Like, it tells you on the spine exactly what it is, as opposed to having to look at a number to figure out what category it fits under. Some people still like seeing the Dewey Decimal System when it comes to like nonfiction, but we don't even use a Dewey Decimal System when it comes to nonfiction. So we actually break our books up into categories where it's like art or animals, art, biography, craft, hobby, cooking, you know, health, science, social science, travel, sports. Like, it's categorized so people know what category to go to, and then in each category is a list of subcategories. So let's say you want you may want a book about crocheting. In our system you'll find it under like craft, hobby, needlework, crochet, and then the author's last name. So it ends up being 4 lines. And I wish I had some examples. I wish I had some really good examples to show you guys, but I'm like looking around to see. I don't check out a lot of nonfiction, so it's just really crappy of me. But I wish I had an example to show you what I'm talking about. But just know that some libraries, it depends on where you go, because every system hasn't converted over to that system. It solely depends upon where you go, but we are completely and fully accessed. Some people still use the Dewey Decimal System. I find that a lot of academic libraries still use the Dewey Decimal System to function, but we do not. And I'm glad, because actually when I was in grad school, they didn't teach me the Dewey Decimal System. Whoops. It just didn't. I'm not sure why. And actually we didn't really learn. I think maybe he may have been glossed over briefly in my collection development class, but I didn't really talk about him either. So I think everybody's kind of moving away from that system in general. Some other things that I am responsible for, like I said before, like I think the perception is that libraries or people who work in libraries, whether you're considered professional staff, professional or just general staff, is not check in, check out, and shelf and reader's advisory and sitting around reading books. Like, we do those things, but that's not the core of our job. So other responsibilities that I could be things like helping somebody do a resume, or helping somebody with a job application, helping somebody fax and scan, copy, print, all types of different stuff. So there's every library now is encompassing some sort of business center into the libraries. That way people know that they can get assistance with stuff like their resumes. And a lot of us go through some type of training to make sure that we are all consistently knowing how to help people with job corps related stuff. But I think job corps related stuff is probably one of my favorite parts of my job. Even though technically I'm a teen librarian, I really like doing job corps related stuff because it makes me feel like, not that I don't feel like I'm ever not making a difference in someone's life, but I think when I see people really trying to like get a job, beef up their resume, or they're applying for school, like I love to be able to sit down and help them reach that goal. I know that's something that's super important to them, and I just love that. And I love how people return sometimes after you've helped them do something like fill out a job application, help them with their resume, and they come back and they say to you, like, thank you so much, like I got the job. Like, I'll never forget, I helped a woman from out of state, and she had just moved to my state, and she came to the library and I was helping her, and she had a job interview, so she wanted me to help her with her cover letter and a resume. So we sat down for about like an hour and a half and we worked through everything, and she interviewed for the job. She came back the next day and she was like, I just wanted to say thank you so much because I ended up getting the job. And to know that I was able to help her transition into a brand new job when she was brand new to the state really made me feel, gosh, y'all, like that feeling of making a difference, like it's such a beautiful bit. Like, you can't trade that in for money. It's such a beautiful feeling. So I do stuff like that. And another component of my job is programming. So I have done all types of programs, and people don't realize, if you decide to work, and this is all from the perspective, let me clarify, I should have said this at the beginning of the entire video, but let me clarify, this is from the perspective of a public librarian. So I work in a public library system. I do not work I've never worked in an academic library. I don't work in a special library. I don't work in a school library. So I, being part of a public library system, I do have to actively do programming. It is part of my job description. I have done programming for all age groups. I've done adult book clubs. I've done story time. I've done art programs for kids. I've done art programs for teens. I've done teen programming, which is, I do a lot of teen programming now because I'm a teen librarian. But I have done programs for seniors. Like, I have across the board, whatever you can think of, like I've had my hands in it, especially when I was freshly new to the library, because I was trying to figure out what age group I really wanted to focus in on. And I, was really into youth services, which is what I went to school for. So I did a lot more and ended up doing a lot more programming in youth services, and more specifically in teen programming. So I am storytime trained. I work for a system where I have to be trained to do storytime. There's a specific way in which storytime is supposed to be conducted. Although it may look like we just are up there reading and singing songs, there's a method to our madness, because we actually study the appropriate books to use for certain age groups. So like, when you attend a library program that's like a baby story time or a toddler story time, or if it's like a family story time, like, or if it's even a sensory story time, we have trained for that stuff. It's not something that we just kind of do on a whim, at least in my library system. Like I said, I can only speak for my library system. So that's something that we do on a whim. We are actually trained to do that stuff. And the songs that we pick, the books that we pick, all of that stuff is intentional. It's on purpose. And sometimes parents and kids alike don't really know the difference or don't really know the reasoning behind which books are chosen and why they're being chosen, but we expose kids to certain books for certain reasons. And I'm not talking about like political or anything like agenda wise, but like increasing reading habits and reading skills. So there's certain books that we pick out to help them develop the skills that they need in order to become future readers. Everything is super intentional. So I've done a little bit of all that stuff, y'all. Like I'm even on the back end now. I do a little bit of everything, and like I've done the collection development side where I have processed books and have put them into the system. I have ordered supplies for the library before. I have dealt with AV problems, meaning that when people check out movies or music or books on CD or whatever the case may be, I have to make sure that they returned all the pieces and parts. And when they don't, I've at one point been responsible for fixing all that stuff. I have done a little bit of everything, even down to making the schedule. So when I talk about my experience and my day in to day out, like I honestly don't have a routine. I wish I could tell you guys like, oh, I have this routine, like every Monday I do X, Y, Z. I don't, because every day is different, and working in a public library is a position where you never know what you're gonna get that day. You never know what to expect because you're working for the public. That means that anybody can come into your building at any time, and you never know what someone's needs are going to be. You never know what situations you're going to run to. It could be a completely quiet day, or it could be a completely like boisterous day. So for me, my every day that I work is new and different, and I really like that because it's kind of like I wake up every morning and go to work and I don't know what to expect. And I think for me that's super needed, because I can't work in a position where I can't work and not in a position where everything is super routine. There are some things about my job that are routine, some duties that have to be fulfilled every single day, but for the most part I would say like nothing's ever truly consistent. Some people may not like that, some people may love that, and once again I will say that it's based on your system and it's based on your position. I think the position that I have now is a lot more flexible because I'm considered a supervisor. So because I'm considered a supervisor, I feel like my position is a lot more flexible than it was beforehand. Not that saying like, oh, I get away with a lot more, but I think it has to be a little bit more flexible because I have a lot more responsibilities on my hands, which is great in some ways. But yeah, so that's my responsibilities. Typical day as a librarian. If there's anybody that's worked in the library, like let me know in the comments, like what have been your responsibilities, what have you loved about working in the library, and if you guys have questions about anything that I've just talked about, as always, like let me know in the comments below. Also, like let me know, once again, like keep giving me topics. So like I said, I went back to the first video and I made a list of the topics that you guys kind of were interested in. And those are topics that I'm going to explore. Some of those videos take a little bit more planning because there's so much information that will encompass one topic. Like I know a lot of people are interested in learning more about like children's lit and teen lit and reader's advisory. Like that is probably going to have to be a video that's split into two in itself. And even then, I don't feel like that's even that's going to be enough because there's a lot of information behind that stuff. So I got to think a little bit more strategically about videos like that. But definitely let me know in the comments like what you guys are thinking about. And I definitely will try to incorporate them as much as I can into this series. Thank you guys for all your support in this series. Like I got so much positive feedback, not only in views but in comments, about how much this video has helped people. So it's great to know that this series is going to be something that's adding to the booktube community and giving a different perspective in the booktube community, because I know a lot of us are readers, but I don't know how many of us in the booktube community are like librarians. I think there's a handful of us. There's a couple people I follow that I know for a fact are librarians. So whenever they vlog or they talk, like, it's so interesting because we have similar things that we do. But I'm really interested in hearing more, if there are more librarians in the community. But just let me know. As always, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. If you're interested in following me on social media, all my links are down in the description box below. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Bye.